Greetings, everyone. I'm here once again with Jason Voorhees2011.
Hey guys.
And no, we're not here to talk about Godzilla, but we are here to talk about giant people and giant metal people. And okay, it has no correlation to Godzilla. No, but Jason, since this is your pretty much a video spotlighting you, tell them what we're here to talk about, because when you finish this, I was like, we have to talk about this and what the plans are for this in the future.
All right. Well, we are here to talk about a fan fiction that I wrote that is a crossover between Transformers and Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Now, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Now, before anyone says, "Oh, that sounds so stupid," Jason thought of a really good way of playing with this. Now, I'm never a big fan of the whole crossing into other universes entirely. I'm more a fan of, like, it's kind of easier for me to write in, oh, they're in the same universe, they just don't meet. But Jason over here thought of a good way of saying that the space bridge malfunctioned. And this is actually, what it is pretty much a combination of the G1 and Prime universe. It's like an amalgam of the Prime and G1 universe.
Yeah, although I mainly took inspiration from Prime.
Yeah. There are some G1 designs in here and G1 ideas, but for the most part, it is a Prime universe. But it's the cool thing about this crossover is that Jason got to play fast and loose with, and pretty much we saw a lot of these Transformers in Fall of Cybertron. And when you get down to it, you could technically call this more of a Fall of Cybertron crossover.
Yeah, you could pretty much say that.
Yeah. So so Jason, you want to tell him the story?
Sure. Now the story is that basically the Autobots are pretty much losing the war back on Cybertron, and then Bumblebee comes up to Optimus and he tells him that Megatron has pretty much built a space bridge, and he plans to use it to use other resources from other worlds to create new weapons. Basically, what Optimus decides to do is lead a suicide attack on Kaon to destroy the space bridge. But what happens, as Deadpool here once described, Starship pretty much fucks everything up, and the space bridge malfunctions, and a group of Autobots and Decepticons get sent to the world of the Four Nations.
Yep, that is the story in a nutshell. That is pretty much what we are dealing with here. That a large groups of Autobots and Decepticons have pretty much been stranded on the world of Four Nations. Now, you told me the original idea for this was that it was going to be solely a G1 crossover. Because I remember months back before you came back to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to do this again, but with a different idea." Because I remember you telling me the original idea was that a Fire Nation mining group finds Soundwave, a G1 Soundwave, before, and this is supposed to be like, it's the same Earth. That's what I really like about it, is that you pretty much said they came to Earth thousands of years earlier, but in the original idea it was the Fire Nation accidentally found the Nemesis, and they woke up Soundwave, and he activates the other Decepticons.
Well, they didn't find the Nemesis, they just found Soundwave.
Yeah, and then he went to find Starscream and Megatron, and they dug up the rest of the Nemesis, while at the same time, I think he's told me that the Ark was buried in Old Ba Sing Se.
Yeah. That was basically the original idea. And the group of Autobots were pretty much bigger. If memory serves me right, I believe it was originally Optimus, Ironhide, Mirage, RC, Bumblebee, the Dinobots, and a few others.
Yeah. But this idea worked too. I mean, you got to play with new ideas, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I played I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I did help with a lot of the world building in here. But this was mainly Jason's idea. A lot of the ideas came from Jason. I was just like, hey, can I help?
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. And he did write 3 of the chapters.
Yeah.
Which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, I did write chapters 12, 17, and 25.
Yeah.
Which were mostly just expanding on the universe and just filling in little gaps.
Yeah.
Now let me say this right now. I don't do this for everybody. Please don't come to me and asking, "Hey, can you write chapters of my fanfiction or give me critiques?" I suck at it. The only reason I helped Jason was because A, he's a very good friend of mine, and B, he asked me if I wanted to help in any way. I asked him, actually. No. I asked you. That was it. I asked you if I could help.
Yeah, I believe that was how it went.
Yeah, I asked him for help, but it was mainly Jason's idea, and he still kind of was like my editor-in-chief, telling me, hey, because I told him, you have the privilege to change anything you want in the chapters.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so there's extra dialogue or extra character notes here and there. But remember, guys, please don't ask me for helping to write your fan fiction.
Please don't.
Yeah, the only reason I helped with this was because it was kind of a dream project, also.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to do something with Transformers and Avatar. I just never got to do it, so I got to kill two birds with one stone 3 times. So that was pretty much it. But again, please, I don't do this for everybody. I'm not the fan fiction wizard. So now I hope that's been put across enough. So yeah, we are going to get into some spoiler territory, but for the most part, we're going to keep some stuff, especially towards the end, quiet.
Yeah.
But we are going to talk about the characters we had in here, the characters we wanted to have in here, and the things you're probably going to see in the sequel, because we are doing Jason's doing. I'm just I'm not. I don't think I'm going to be writing any chapters for that one. I think I'm just going to be helping plotting ideas.
Yeah.
But it's basically going to be Jason's thing, and we are doing Legend of Korra as the sequel.
Yeah, and please don't ask us to do any of the bullshit from the comics.
Yeah, we're not doing the Search or the...
No.
That burned us so bad.
No. Fuck that.
Yeah. But yeah, let's talk about... let's get right into it, like, what the story... Getting on to the story now. The story takes place at the episode The Earth King.
It takes place right after, like, Lao Guy. Yeah. It takes place right at the beginning of the episode that followed The Earth King. And basically what happens is that Optimus finds himself in the underground ruins of Ba Sing Se, and he digs himself out and he comes across the gang.
Yeah. And I love the interaction when he's like, "Don't fear me, humans," and I love how quick they kind of just kind of get over it.
Yeah. Because I didn't really want to do the whole cliche of them just randomly attacking this giant metal thing.
Yeah, I love how I can't see what's going on, and Katara's like, "Oh," Toph is like, "I can't see what's going on. What are you all gasping at?" "Oh, nothing. It's just a giant 30-foot metal man."
Toph's just like, sweet.
But yeah, I actually am kind of curious. Why did you choose the Earth King as the end of Book 2 as your starter point?
It was somewhat the starter point of the original series, even though the original story it takes place right at the end. But I guess I just decided to take a swing at it. I'm not entirely sure why I thought of that.
Yeah, I was like, the end of Book 2, and toward the ending half of Book 2 and all of Season 3, that is where this story takes place.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I was kind of curious of why you chose that as your place of that point in time for the Transformers to appear.
I guess it's because of. I guess if I had to guess why, I suppose it would be so that the Decepticons could come in and assist the Fire Nation and assist Azula, May, and Ty Lee, to where they practically don't even need to Dai Li.
Yeah. There are some major changes, but for the most part, a lot of the stories themselves are kept the same. There are a few changes. I mean, obviously, we don't have the Dai Li, and
Long Fang is pretty much dealt with much quicker.
Yeah. We also have, instead of in the comics, it says that Judy was left in control of Ba Sing Se. No, we have Knockout as governor.
Yeah.
But yeah, the story is pretty much that. And actually, now that I think about it, it is a good place because at that time the Fire Nation have won, and now they have the Decepticons as their allies.
Yeah, it pretty much puts the gang and the Autobots in a serious disadvantage. And it doesn't help that at first they only have 4 Autobots.
Yeah. The 4 Autobots that we start out with is, of course, Optimus, and then we had Ironhide, Bumblebee, and Warpath in the next chapter.
Yeah.
Which, actually, it was an idea I just kind of pitched to you. It was like, hey, maybe some of the gang can be friends with the Autobots, and I think we picked the right guys to be friends with the certain Autobot companions.
Yeah, I actually didn't think of that at first. I just selected Bumblebee, Ironhide, and Warpath. I didn't know how similar they were to the gang.
Yeah. We had first off, I think we had the perfect friendship between Toph and Ironhide.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I told a friend of mine, Fangirl 4, she was like, "That is too. Ironhide and Toph make the perfect group." They're not a couple. It's more like a father-daughter relationship.
Yeah, pretty much.
Then we had Sokka and Warpath.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I know Warpath is your all-time favorite Autobot, so.
Yeah.
So I was him and Sokka made good friends, and then we had Katara and Bumblebee, which I really liked as well. But you know who else could have been good with Katara? I think Ratchet would have been a good pairing. I mean, a good match for her.
That does sound that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. I also kind of would like to see, since it was Prime Ratchet, I think it would be great to see Katara and Ratchet just kind of bicker sometimes. This old crotchety robot hanging out with this young girl, and they're both arguing about medical practice. It was like, Katara, move, you don't know Cybertronian technology. It's like, well, you don't know human biology. I don't know. I think it would be good either way. But I like her interaction with Bumblebee.
Yeah.
And this is Prime Bumblebee.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. The other one, I think that was about it. We didn't have one for Zuka. We did toss around some ideas.
Yeah, and I originally came up with an idea that Drift could be his Autobot companion.
Yeah, for those who don't know who Drift is, he's from the IDW comics.
Yeah, but I don't know much about the IDW comics, so I didn't want to butcher Drift's character. So I dropped him.
Yeah. I think we did talk about May RC being May's companion if she appeared earlier in the comics. I mean, not the comics, the story. Yeah. The other thing was that we also didn't have a lot. We also focused more on the Autobots the other Autobots than we did Optimus, because Optimus we did have in here. You did have him in the story. But he wasn't the main focus until, only at certain parts. And I think those parts were where you really needed Optimus the most.
Yeah, even I admit that I didn't really write it much of Optimus.
Yeah. Optimus, he plays a big part in the beginning, and then towards when they're leaving the Fire Nation, but then he leaves with Hakoda.
Yeah. He basically leaves to try and gather some more Autobots for the invasion.
Yeah, who are spread all over the world, and the other Autobots you brought in actually a Bayformer with Ratchet and Sea-Spray when they find him. Breakaway.
Yeah, before people judge me, Breakaway was actually this really cool character in the Revenge of the Fallen video game. He's basically the replacement for all those pointless characters from Revenge of the Fallen. They basically get rid of all of them and just replace them with this one aerial bot.
Yeah. So he only appeared in the video games, and the games were admittedly better than the movies, so...
Yeah, the Revenge of the Fallen video game was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah. But the thing is, with Breakaway, I was kind of like, you're bringing in a Bayformer, really? And then you wrote him pretty good. I like the friendship the kind of friendship you gave him with Aang.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aang didn't really have an Autobot companion. I mean, you could say Optimus was his.
Yeah, that was originally what we wrote in, but as I said, I didn't put Optimus in for too much.
Yeah, but it was more. I think what the idea was that the friendship between Optimus and Aang was more like mentor and student.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean Aang, the Avatar, learning from Optimus Prime. How awesome is that? I mean, not bending, but more like more morality and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he also learned a few things from Alpha Trion. Let's not forget that.
Oh yeah, we also had the spirit of Aang being learning some things from Alpha Trion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was cool. I mean, we did toss around that he was going to meet the past Primes as well, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, and I even suggested maybe Primus, but that didn't happen either.
Yeah, it was just too much to fit in at the end, because then we got, like, the 4-part ending you wrote was completely insane.
Yeah. Like, I knew that was going to be big, and even I admit that it did disappoint.
No, I think you did I think you got the satisfying ending, and we did change a few things in the story itself. Like,
yeah.
we did write in that May and Ty Lee towards the end joined the group.
Well, not Ty Lee.
Well, Ty Lee technically, but I don't want to spoil why she wasn't part of the big finale.
No, let's not.
Yeah, because that was kind of like, it makes sense if that happened to her, especially from Azula.
Yeah.
So May plays a big part. She plays a big part, and she kind of gets a friendship with Grimlock. Out of all the Autobots, we're like, she's going to be friends with Grimlock at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because her and Grimlock actually share something, but we're not going to spoil that either.
Yeah. I think the best parts were in the boy. I think my favorite chapters were the Boiling Rock chapters.
Yeah.
And I was pretty sure it was your favorite because you got to use your favorite Transformer.
Yeah.
Shockwave.
Yep.
So you want to tell him what the plan, what the whole thing with Shockwave was?
Well, I think we're kind of skipping a little bit too far ahead.
Oh yeah. Let's. Let's
backtrack a little bit.
Yeah, let's backtrack a little bit. So the other thing we played around with was that the Decepticons need the Fire Nation, but they pretty much established that if we wanted to, we could turn right around and obliterate these guys.
Yeah.
But they were pretty much like, look, we need the Energon, we need to get back home, and it's kind of, and on the 6th side, it's kind of fun to kill humans.
Yeah, and we're on the winning side on top of that.
Yeah. So Azula is more than willing to work, and that was the thing. We kind of built up to Megatron. You kind of built up to Megatron. It was mostly Starscream and a small group of Decepticons who helped him.
Yeah, with Starscream, Soundwave, Thundercracker, Skywarp, the cassettes, and Knockout.
Yeah. I also I find it great that Starscream and Azula work so close together because that group that duo, that partnership makes sense.
Yeah. That was something I always envisioned.
Of Starscream
and Azula working together.
And the fact that this is Prime Starscream also helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other things you got to play around with was like building up to Megatron.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think was really great when you finally brought him in at the end of one of the chapters, and everyone is just like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah. And even Ty Lee was pretty much ran behind the throne room because she was scared out of her mind. And the second he left, she was like, "Is he gone now?" Yeah, because Prime Megatron is someone you do not want to fuck with.
Yeah. Do you want to spoil something real quick at the end of that big end where Optimus, Aang, Katara, and Bumblebee are fighting Megatron and Starscream, Azula, and Zuko?
And Knockout.
And Knockout, yeah.
Well, actually, it was Knockout instead of Starscream.
Yeah. You want to just spoil, like, who does that? Okay, so most of you guys know that Azula shot Aang when he goes in the Avatar state, right?
Right.
Guess who it was this time around?
It was Megatron this time.
Yeah, Megatron guns down Aang.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I was like, wow, he did that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like the Fire Nation was so ready, ready, willing, and able to just accept the Decepticons as allies.
Yeah, because A, think of the possibilities, and B, if they fought with them, they're pretty much done.
Yeah. Which inevitably happened.
Yeah.
But then we had, do you want to talk about the other Autobots and Decepticons we brought in? Well, you brought in. I just...
Sure. Like we said, eventually they meet up with Ratchet, Breakaway, and Sea Spray. And then after building a smaller version of a space bridge, and he's like, I need more troops here if we're going to secure our victory. And we get some Viacons, we get Arachnid, Breakaway, Astro Train, and pretty much the most important one of all, Dreadwing.
Yeah, we also got you forgot to mention Blitzwing.
I thought I mentioned Blitzwing.
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah. And we also had a few other Autobots, a few other Decepticons that just showed up, but then again, I just kind of thought back and it was just like, you know what? Decepticons and Autobots randomly showed up for no reason in episodes of 80s Transformers. People can accept this.
Like when the the Constructicons randomly showed up in the Painted Lady chapter.
Yeah. They just randomly show up, and then I was just like, is he going to write in where they came from? But then I thought about it, I was like, you know what? The 80s cartoon got away with randomly showing up new characters. I'm fine with this.
Yeah.
So yeah, the other chapters. What was like one of the ones you really enjoyed writing the most?
If I had to pick some, I would probably say the finale, the invasion, the Boiling Rock. Basically all the ones that took more than one chapter to tell.
Yeah.
There were some ones that were kind of tedious to write too, like the Avatar and the Fire Lord and the War for Cybertron, because it was basically just note for note copying what happened in both the episode The Avatar and the Fire Lord and the first level in War for Cybertron.
Yeah. But then again, we got that big reveal about what Sozin's what we came up with what Sozin's comet really is.
Yeah.
Which we're not going to spoil.
Nope.
You'll just have to be like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, but do you also want to talk about Dreadwing's role in the story?
Real quick, but before anyone gets confused, we did. Jason did cut out a few episodes. Like he did cut out the episode. The beach. Because I think there was originally there was an idea you wanted to do about Dreadwing. It was all going to be talking about Dreadwing hunting the Autobots, which we'll get into in a second. But we also cut out the Puppet Master.
And Nightmares and Daydreams.
Yeah, we just kind of mentioned them. And we also did a quick mention of... I got to write a fun little thing about the Ember Island players. I don't care what anyone says, I'm proud of that.
and as much as I'll defend sometimes the lesser of two evils, I still found it hilarious.
Yeah. I just love writing in the Ember Island players, doing Avatar The Last Airbender, written by Mako Bay and Shyamalan.
Yeah.
I'm so proud. I don't care what anyone says, I'm proud of that.
Yeah. And I found it hilarious.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, so just letting you guys know, we did cut it, some episodes were cut out of this, but we kept the big ones in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you want to talk about Dreadwing's role?
Yeah. He's pretty much the replacement for Combustion Man.
Yeah.
He's basically the one that Azula chooses to, what Actor Zuko hires Combustion Man to hunt down the Avatar. Soundwave figures this out. He tells it to Azula, and she's like, I know that Zuzu's probably gonna fuck things up, so I'm gonna go ahead and let Dreadwing hunt him down instead.
Yeah. And for the most part, people were kind of saying in the reviews, like, why is she not telling her father about this? And then I just kind of, we had a chapter of saying, if Azula told him this alliance is over, she gets banished, it's all for nothing. Because...
Yeah, and on top of that, her whole land would be crushed by the Autobots.
Yeah. But then we had Dreadwing did play a bigger part towards the end. He pretty much replaces Combustion Man, and I think the idea of what you wanted to do, which I'm surprised. I guess you couldn't think. I'm not blaming you. I'm guessing time constraint or something. But I think the original idea you told me for one of the things that you wanted to do with Dreadwing was the whole thing of them being hunted by Dreadwing during the events of the beach. It was just going to focus on the Avatars group.
Yeah, but that would have just made it really a chapter that was way too short. So I just incorporated that in Sokka's Master.
Yeah. Which works better because we did something. You did something even better with Sokka's sword.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we'll just say. I guess this is a minor spoiler. Sokka gets an Energon sword.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the other stuff was really fun. It was really enjoyable to be a part of it and to help craft this universe.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. But again, this was mostly this was like 90% your work.
Yeah, but I do very much appreciate your help, man.
Yeah, and once again, I helped him because it was awesome, and he knew what he was doing. I just kind of filled in the gaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, the what was I gonna say? The ending. Oh my god, the ending.
Yeah. What exactly do you want to talk about without spoiling some major stuff?
Let's just say, oh my god, that ending. We do have some. There are some deaths.
Yeah.
Of one death I was kind of expecting, the other 3 I was not. There were a total of 4 deaths, people. None of them are human. Well, no, there are. There is a death of a certain character in here.
Weird, which we're not spoiling.
Yeah. There is a death of an Avatar. One Avatar character dies, 4 Transformer characters will die. So we have a total of...
Wait, 4? Don't you mean 5?
5, yeah, 5. We have a total of 5 deaths on the Transformer.
Or wait, 6?
Well, I'm counting there are 2 other deaths in the other in the Southern Raiders chapter.
Well, no, I'm talking about, like, who gets his head twisted off.
Oh, yeah. So, we have a big body count of Transformers.
Yeah.
We're no... it's not like with Josh Whedon, we're just killing off random people. No, a lot of these characters are going to get killed off. There is a body count. Because it's a goddamn war.
Yeah. And a big one at that.
Yeah. Can we at least talk about some of the references you put in here?
Sure.
Yeah. There are... You have to really look for them. That's the cool part. But other times they're just like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
No one's gonna... A lot of people aren't gonna get this one, so I'll say this one right now. In the Boiling Rock, Shockwave is the warden, and Chitsang says that a Viacon helped him escape, and the Viacon's designation number is 24601.
Yeah.
Which is now the reason I say that because that is a loose reference to Les Miserables.
Yeah. And I'll mention another one. There's a set of coordinates that Megatron puts in, and the coordinates are 528. God damn it! Did I actually forget the number?
Well, what was the reference to?
Inception.
Oh yeah, that one I didn't notice until I do a backtrack. And then we did a Star Trek reference, a really tiny one. Yeah, you did a Star Trek reference.
Yeah, which you could technically say is a Transformers reference, but fuck it, I'm saying it's a Star Trek reference.
Yeah, I also wrote in one of the chapters a Star Wars reference. It's
and
something.
A G.I. Joe reference.
And a G.I. Joe reference, but that one is really it's a G.I. Joe retaliation reference.
Yeah, which I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I like that movie.
I like that movie too.
And somehow I'm seeing that a lot of people are actually saying it's even worse than the first one, which, are they fucking high or what?
We're not here to talk about G.I. Joe. We're not here to talk about another Hasbro group.
No, we're not.
So yeah, we don't want to... Jason and I don't want to spoil a lot of it. Just go read it.
Yeah.
But do you want... we've got so many Autobots and Decepticons that show up. The Constructicons, the Terrorcons, the Grimlock, Prowl,
yeah.
Omega Supreme, Arachnid.
What else? Like I mentioned before, Astro Train and Blitzwing.
Yeah. Sideswiping Sunstreakers. So many. And
we're not going to mention two big ones that appear towards the end.
Yeah.
And also, there's Cyclonus, Six Shot.
And
which, if you don't know, Six Shot was in the Headmaster series.
Yeah. So yeah, do you want to move on to like some of the stuff well, you've got planned, and I'm helping plan out for the Legend of Korra crossover Transformer story.
Sure.
All right, if that's all good with you.
Yeah. First of all, I'm just gonna say Amon's gonna be rewritten.
Yeah, Amon is being totally rewritten. Do you want to like the idea of what we've got for Amon?
It's basically just his original story that he was given this ability by the spirits, and who were corrupted by someone. We're not gonna mention who.
Yeah. So it was corrupted spirits. But we're not going to say who did the corrupting.
No.
Yeah. Amon is getting help from some, what was it, like, some Headmasters-era villains.
Zarak.
Yeah, I was going to not spoil that.
Fuck. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say Headmasters-era villain, but okay, yeah, he's getting help from Zarak.
Yeah. Which I don't think a lot of people really know, so it's not that much of a spoiler.
Yeah. And we also are bringing in some, it's been 70 years pretty much, and we're not calling Republic...
It's still been 70 years.
Yeah. It's been 70 years with the Autobots are on Earth, many Autobots have come to Earth, and the Decepticons are kind of, broken up. They're leaderless.
Yeah.
And they've pretty much been whoring themselves out to triads or just been roving bands of, like... They're pretty much doing whatever they can to survive, even, like, selling themselves out to the triads for Energon.
Yeah. Do you want to mention one Decepticon we wrote into a triad?
Yeah. Well, actually, no. Let's make him a surprise.
All right.
Yeah. There is going to be some like G2, some G1 era of other, like, G2 era characters and some Headmasters characters making their appearance. There is also going to be some... Why am I saying this? It's your story, dude.
Yeah, there's also going... We've also written into who the Guardians of the Humans are. We wrote in that, obviously, Hot Rod's going to be Korra's Guardian.
Yeah. Hot Rod is going to be her Guardian.
Yeah. Later on, Mako and Bolin, they're going to get Guardians.
Yeah. Do you want to say who they are?
We haven't entirely decided who Mako's Guardian is. We're kind of leaning towards Trailbreaker, but for Bolin, we pretty much decided he's going to get Blaster.
Yeah. Blaster is going to be Bolin's Guardian.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil Asami's.
Yeah, because if we say who Asami's Guardian is, that's going to spoil something in the finale of the first story.
Yeah. So, Mako, we don't have an idea. I think we were leaning a lot towards Trailbreaker.
Yeah.
And this story, you told me that this sequel story is going to focus more on the lesser-known Autobots and like, it's Optimus and the other ones are going to play a part, but they're not going to be... They're going to be, like, supporting characters.
Pretty much, although I mainly said that the choice of Zarak was pretty much because I wanted to introduce a much more lesser-known Transformers villain.
Yeah.
Because while I was on vacation, I watched the entire Headmaster series, and I really like Zarak as a villain.
Yeah.
Especially after seeing this really good English dub of an episode of the Headmasters.
Yeah. Yeah, so there are some other Decepticons that are coming back from the first fan fiction. That most of them, a lot of the like major Decepticons that weren't killed in the finale have become war criminals, and they've been in hiding for a while.
Yeah.
And we've also got other things, not just the Equalists, but we've also got, like, there's roving bands of Insecticons that have been eating... That the world is not well because there's one thing worse than united Decepticons. Separated Decepticons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, not only is the... also, we're not calling Republic City Republic City.
Yeah, we're calling it New Iacon.
Yeah, New Iacon. Because in the story, Aang and Zuko and the other worked with the Autobots, and as a token of their appreciation, since the Autobots can't go back home, they named the city Iacon.
Yeah.
For respect to the Autobots. But yeah, the other stuff is that, again, a lot of Decepticons are now just roving around. They're either in small separated groups, or they're working for the Triads, or they're just, they're leaderless. And some of them, or maybe just one, have switched sides.
Yeah. Which, again, we're not mentioning who.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other things is that there are, we've got a few other things that Lin, the Metal Benders are going to be called Metal Benders, because there are going to be Autobots working with the Metal Benders, and it's going to be called the Elite Guard.
Yeah.
Which is, do you want to explain a little more of that?
We have written in that Ironhide is going to be working with Lin, leading the Elite Guard, and that some other Autobots are going to be with them, I think we mentioned Brawn at one point.
Yeah, like a lot of the tougher Autobots.
Yeah.
They're all part of the Elite Guard, which is, it's Metal Benders and Autobots put together.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Korra is pretty much living in a world where, giant robot men and benders live together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pro-bending is still pro-bending.
Yeah, we haven't thought of a way of incorporating anything new into that.
Yeah, which I think you don't need to, in a sense, really.
No, we don't really need to.
Yeah.
Do you want to mention real quick? Do you want us to mention real quick some of the Autobots that are with the United Forces?
Yeah. Well, actually, no. Let's not spoil that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we've talked about doing spirits, but not yet. Not until the season finishes.
Yeah. Even then, I am watching spirits, and it's actually really tough trying to fit in some ideas in there. Mostly because I surprisingly don't really care much for spirits.
Yeah.
See, you're not alone.
Yeah. But yeah, I think if you did decide to do spirits, and we talked about this, we picked out the perfect villain to help Unalaq.
Yeah.
Which we were like, it's spirits, so he has to play a part in this.
Yeah.
Someone's already figured out who we're talking about, what Transformers villain would be working with Unalaq at this point. But we're not going to spoil.
Yeah, just in case we're not going to spoil it.
Yeah.
We've also already picked out the main villain, the main villain.
Yeah, the person who worked with Unalaq is a lackey.
Yeah.
The big villain is gonna come later on.
Yeah. Well, actually, he's gonna be in the end of the final chapter of the core story to kind of bridge between air and spirits.
Yeah, and Amon is gonna be working for him.
Yeah. Although you don't know that until the very end.
Sorry, but sorry, I didn't mean to spoil that.
No, it's okay. All that matters is we're not spoiling who it is.
Yeah, I'm guessing a few people how we're describing it figured it out already. That's the sad part.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. But yeah, the other things we wanted to do was with that, the equalist movement is kind of well, we're not just pissed off at Benders, they're kind of pissed at Autobots too.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, because they feel well, they came and changed everything. These, kind of xenophobic that they think, oh, aliens should go home.
Yeah, pretty much. Sorry.
Yeah. And a lot of the Decepticons now have a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that one's gonna be, because you told me that this one, no one is safe.
No. Like like basically when Endgame comes in, shit is gonna go down.
Yeah, when the when the end game comes, get the body bags.
Or the space coffins.
Yeah. Cause then, oh boy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really all we can say.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, yeah, go check out the fan fiction. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to thank my my good friend Jason Voorhees2011.
And I'd like to thank Deadpoolzilla for showing his support.
Yeah, and if you haven't subscribed to him yet, go check it out. He has done some amazing work, some amazing trailer work.
Yeah, that was always my hobby. After discovering some of their YouTubers like Shades at Night.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So go.
And also one more thing, I forgot to say this, but I apologize if my voice sounds somewhat groggy. I'm kind of recovering from a bad cold.
No, I don't hear it.
All right.
So, in other words, go check this out. It is amazing. That's. Any other final words? Just to build up hype.
I don't really have any.
All right. Well, good night, folks.